My breath hitched as my body jerked awake. Cold sweat clung to my skin, and my muscles felt like lead. The air around me was sterile, too clean, carrying the faint hum of machinery. My mind struggled to catch up. Where the hell was I? A sharp chime from my wrist made me flinch. I turned my heavy head down to my smartwatch, the screen flickering as it synced to my vitals. The words glowing on the display sent ice down my spine. Time elapsed since last consciousness. 435 years, 7 months, 12 days. That wasn't right. That wasn't even remotely possible. The last thing I remembered was strapping into a cryopod for what should have been a routine deep space hibernation. A 5-year jump to Epsilon Eridani, at most. I had signed up for a colonial engineering mission, just another cog in the machine of human expansion. There had been no alarms, no disasters, no reason why I should have been out for nearly half a millennium. Panic surged through me as I struggled to move. My limbs were weak, protesting against the years of stagnation. My vision swam as I pushed against the glass of the cryo chamber, which hissed open at my command. The room around me was dimly lit, its curved metallic walls showing signs of age. Rust along the edges, flickering emergency lights, and an eerie silence that screamed abandonment. I wasn't in a bustling colony ship. This place was a tomb. Hello. My voice cracked, my throat dry and raw. No response. Not even the hum of a ship's AI. I forced myself to stand, gripping the cryopod for support. The room housed several other chambers, but they were dark, some shattered, others offline. I checked the nearest one, pressing the diagnostic panel. Offline. The occupant inside was nothing more than a husk, dried flesh stretched over brittle bones. My stomach churned. Something had gone very, very wrong. I staggered forward, pushing through the nausea and the fog in my brain. The exit led to a dimly lit corridor, flickering panels casting ghostly shadows along the walls. The ship's nameplate caught my eye, USS Odyssey. That wasn't the ship I had boarded. Fear tightened around my chest, but I forced myself to keep moving. My smartwatch was still functional, its onboard AI struggling to reconnect to the ship's network. Finally, a shaky voice crackled through the speaker. Warning, critical system failures detected. No kidding, I muttered. Ship log access. Partial. Hull integrity. Compromised. Life support minimal. Navigation unknown. The voice stuttered, then added, crew status. 1 survivor detected. My breath caught. Someone else was alive. My smartwatch pinged a location, and I forced my legs into motion, ignoring the weakness still plaguing me. Every step echoed through the empty corridors, the silence pressing in like a vice. As I moved, I caught glimpses of the ship's past, abandoned personal items, shattered helmets, dried blood on the walls. Whatever happened here hadn't been peaceful. The path led me to the bridge. The door barely responded, its motors whining as they forced it open. Inside, the control panels were cracked, flickering sporadically. And slumped over one of the terminals was a figure. Human. I rushed forward, heart pounding, and gripped their shoulder. Their uniform was tattered, insignia barely visible. As I turned them over, I recoiled. The body was skeletal, long dead. Damn it. I breathed, forcing myself to look away. I tapped my smartwatch again. You said there was a survivor. Where? The AI hesitated before responding. Location, engineering bay. Status, unknown. I exhaled sharply. Whoever they were, they might have answers. Or, at the very least, they weren't another corpse. I turned to leave, but something on the console caught my eye. A single transmission log, still active, looping endlessly. I pressed play, and the speakers crackled to life with a voice that sent chills down my spine. If you're hearing this, humanity is gone. They never came for us. We were forgotten. My pulse thundered in my ears. The voice continued, distorted but resolute. But if you woke up, it means something's still out there. The recording ended with a sharp beep. A message left for no one, until now. I swallowed hard, gripping the console for support. My mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. But one thing was certain. I wasn't just waking up to another day. I was waking up to the unknown. And today was going to be legendary. I forced myself down the corridors, my breath coming in short gasps. My body was still sluggish from cryo, but adrenaline kept me moving. Engineering was deep in the belly of the ship, past the ruined crew quarters and storage bays. The emergency lighting flickered erratically, casting long, shifting shadows. As I neared the engineering bay, a smartwatch buzzed again. Life signs detected. Proximity, 30 meters. I slowed my pace, muscles tensing. The door was partially jammed, its locking mechanism unresponsive. With a grunt, I wedged my fingers into the gap and forced it open. The room was in disarray. Wires hung like vines from the ceiling, consoles sparked, and coolant pooled across the floor. And in the center of the chaos, huddled against the main reactor, was a figure. A woman. Human. Alive. Her eyes shot open as I stepped forward. In an instant, she was on her feet, a rusted pipe clutched in her hands like a weapon. Her stance was defensive, wary. "Who the hell are you?" she rasped. I raised my hand slowly. "Easy. Name's Ethan. Just woke up from cryo." She didn't lower the pipe. Her eyes darted to my smartwatch, then back to my face. "That can't be right. Everyone else is dead." I gestured to the room. "Guess I got lucky. What about you?" She hesitated before answering. "Captain Ava Morgan, last survivor of the Odyssey. And if you really just woke up..." Her grip tightened on the pipe. "You have no idea what's coming." A distant clang echoed through the ship, followed by a low, inhuman growl. My blood ran cold. I woke up in darkness. Not the comforting, familiar darkness of night, but a deep, suffocating void that clung to my skin like something alive. My breath hitched. My limbs felt stiff, muscles sluggish, as if my body had forgotten itself. Then a flicker of blue light, faint, pulsing. My smartwatch vibrated weakly on my wrist. I barely had the strength to lift my arm, but I did. The screen glowed with a single message. Cryostasis termination confirmed. Time elapsed, 435 years, 7 months, 12 days. My mind, still clouded with the thick fog of cryo sleep, stumbled over the words. 435 years. I wasn't supposed to be here. Hell, I wasn't supposed to be anywhere. The last thing I remembered was stepping onto the colony ship Venturer, bound for Proxima Centauri. The trip was supposed to take a little over 6 years. Not 4 centuries. Panic began to creep in, but I forced it down. I focused. I was alive. That was the first victory. Slowly, painfully, I sat up. My cryopod hissed as it fully disengaged, releasing the last wisps of freezing vapor. The dim emergency lighting cast everything in eerie red glows. The rest of the cryo chamber stretched before me, a cavernous space filled with hundreds of other pods. All of them dark. All of them dead. The second realization hit me like a freight train. I was alone. I swallowed against the lump forming in my throat. My head still spun from the aftereffects of cryo sleep, but I had to move. Had to figure out what the hell had happened to my ship. The air was stale but breathable. That was good. The ship's life support hadn't completely failed, but the silence was wrong. No hum of engines, no chatter over comms, no soft murmuring of automated systems. I pushed off the pod, staggering forward. My legs were weak, but they held. The moment my bare foot touched the cold metal floor, my smartwatch lit up again. Warning: unspecified anomaly detected. Primary systems offline. I exhaled sharply. No shit. The ship was dead in the water, and I was the only one awake. I needed answers. With sluggish steps, I moved toward the nearest terminal, gripping the edges for balance. The screen flickered weakly as I tapped the interface. Static, then distorted text scrolled across. Ship status: critical failure. Cause unknown. Last recorded event: date corrupted. That wasn't helpful. I swiped again, searching for logs, something, anything, that could tell me why I'd woken up 4 centuries late. A new message blinked onto the screen. External signal detected. Source unidentified. I froze. Something was out there, and it found me first. I stared at the screen, my heart hammering against my ribs. An external signal. Someone had pinged the ship. That meant one of 2 things. Either I'd been found by a rescue crew centuries too late, or I wasn't alone in a way that I really wouldn't like. I forced myself to move, fingers trembling as I navigated the flickering interface. The system was barely functional, corrupted beyond repair, but I managed to pull up a location marker. A ship. My breath hitched. Hope warred with caution. If this was a human vessel, maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the last one left. Maybe the colony mission had survived, and they'd sent someone to find us. But my gut twisted. Something felt wrong. I tapped the screen again, attempting to hail the vessel. Static buzzed through the dead comms before cutting off with an eerie finality. No response, just silence. Then, a new message blinked onto the terminal, but it hadn't come from my input. I took a step back, a chill crawling up my spine. What the hell? I swallowed hard, then typed back. Who is this? The reply came instantly. My skin prickled. That was not an encouraging response. Another message. My blood ran cold. The last? Of what? The crew? Humanity? The entire colony mission? I clenched my jaw and typed again, forcing my hands to stay steady. What happened to my ship? There was a pause. Then, that didn't explain nearly enough. My mind raced. Cryo sleep involved near-complete biological suspension, which meant I shouldn't have aged a day beyond the original 6-year journey. But time dilation? That was something else entirely. Had the ship drifted too close to a gravity well? A black hole? Or worse, had something else done this to us? My smartwatch vibrated sharply against my wrist. Another warning. I sucked in a breath. Whoever, whatever, had sent that signal wasn't waiting for permission. They were coming. I needed to move. Now, I turned, pushing through my lingering weakness, staggering toward the ship's central control hub. If I could get some kind of system running, shields, thrusters, anything, I might stand a chance. But before I reached the exit, the terminal flashed again. A final message. I ran anyway. The corridor lights flickered as I sprinted toward the command deck. My legs were still sluggish from cryo, but adrenaline forced me forward. I needed control. I needed answers. And I needed them before whatever was out there decided to show itself. The ship groaned, a deep, unsettling vibration that I felt in my bones. Not the sound of metal stress or decompression, but something different. Alive. I reached the control hub, slamming my hand against the manual override panel. The door hissed open just enough for me to slip through before jamming halfway, the mechanism grinding uselessly. Inside, the bridge was dead. The main displays flickered with static. The captain's chair sat empty, coated in layers of undisturbed dust. The star map was frozen, a tangle of corrupted data points stretching into nothingness. I exhaled sharply and shoved aside the creeping dread. Focus! I stumbled to the nearest console, fingers flying over the controls, trying to force the ship's scanners to do something. Anything. A few garbled readings popped up. Object 2,000 kilometers and closing. My pulse spiked. Then, the ship's external cameras flickered online. For a second, all I saw was the abyss, an endless sea of stars, cold and indifferent. But then something moved. A shadow. No, not a shadow. A shape. It drifted into view, a vessel unlike anything I'd ever seen. Not human, not sleek, not symmetrical. It looked grown rather than built, its surface pulsing with an organic glow. Shifting plates of unknown material rippled along its hull, as if it were breathing. It wasn't just approaching. It was watching me. A new message flashed across my screen, but this time it wasn't text. It was a voice, a dry, rasping whisper. You are awake. I jerked back from the console, my breath catching. The ship wasn't just watching. It was speaking. I swallowed hard and forced myself to answer. Who are you? A pause. Then, we are the witness. A cold knot twisted in my gut. Witness to what? Another pause. Then the voice whispered, almost reverently. The end of your kind. The bottom dropped out of my stomach. No, I said. That's not. Your vessel drifted through the tides of time. A grave before it was even lost. I shook my head, gripping the edges of the console. That's not possible. There would have been. Survivors? The voice finished for me. No. The weight of it crashed down on me all at once. My lungs clenched, my vision blurred at the edges. The Venturer wasn't just adrift. It was a tomb. and I was the only one who didn't know I was dead. The external cameras zoomed in, locking onto the approaching vessel. A new shape emerged from its hull, something detaching, something coming toward me. A docking mechanism. No, a boarding pod. The whisper returned, softer this time. Do not be afraid. I took a slow, shaky step back. My body was screaming at me to move, to run, to fight, but I was frozen, because deep down I knew the witness hadn't found me by accident. It had been waiting, and now it was here. I had seconds to act. The boarding pod detached, gliding toward the venturer with an eerie silence. I didn't know what was inside, but I was damn sure I wasn't going to wait around to find out. I bolted for the weapons locker. My legs still felt weak from cryo, but fear was a hell of a motivator. The ship creaked, systems groaning to life, as if protesting against the intrusion. The locker hissed open. Inside, nothing but emergency tools, an old plasma cutter, and a low-power energy pistol meant for ship repairs. I grabbed both. Not ideal, but better than nothing. A metallic clang reverberated through the ship. The pod had made contact. I clenched my jaw. Think, damn it. The witness, or whatever it was, clearly wanted me alive. Otherwise, would have blown the venturer apart from a distance. That meant they were coming aboard for a reason. I took cover behind a maintenance console, gripping the pistol tight. The airlock groaned, seals depressurizing. The ship's AI, long dormant, flickered weakly online. A garbled voice sputtered through the speakers. Unidentified boarding event detected. No kidding, I muttered. The doors shuddered open. A figure stepped through. I expected monsters, twisted horrors from some forgotten nightmare. But what I saw was worse. It looked human. Almost. The figure stood tall, wrapped in sleek armor that pulsed with the same organic glow as the witness's ship. The helmet was smooth, faceless, but I could feel its gaze locking onto me. The air around it seemed wrong, as if reality itself bent subtly to its presence. And then it spoke. "You are awake," it said, the same whispering voice from before. My finger tightened on the trigger. "Yeah, I got that part. Now tell me why." The figure tilted its head. "Your kind was lost. The cycle ended. You should not be here." I scowled. "Yeah, well, I didn't exactly get a choice. Now, start explaining." Silence. Then, "Come." It turned, striding back toward the airlock as if the matter was settled. I barked a bitter laugh. "You think I'm just going to follow you?" The figure stopped. Slowly, it turned its head back toward me. "If you wish to understand, you will." I weighed my options. Stay here, alone, in a dead ship drifting through a future I didn't understand, or walk straight into the unknown with an entity that spoke of humanity like it was ancient history. Neither choice was good, but I'd always been a sucker for impossible odds. I tightened my grip on the pistol and stepped forward. The figure nodded once. The airlock cycled again, and I followed it into the darkness. I had no idea what I was walking into, but one thing was clear. This day was only getting weirder. Stepping onto the witness's ship was like walking into a living machine. The walls pulsed faintly, the metallic surface rippling as though it were breathing. There was no traditional lighting, just an eerie bioluminescence that cast shifting shadows across the corridors. The faceless figure moved ahead of me with unnerving grace. Every step it took was silent, and I got the creeping suspicion it didn't walk so much as it willed itself forward. I gripped my pistol tighter. "Where are we going?" I asked. No answer. "All right, sure, let's play the quiet game. Real fun." The corridor opened into a massive chamber, and that's when I saw them. Dozens, no, hundreds of similar figures stood in eerie silence, lined up in rows. Some were hunched over strange consoles that seemed to grow from the floor itself. Others stood motionless, their armor pulsing with unreadable energy. I swallowed. Hard. Hell of a welcoming party. The one leading me finally stopped. It turned to face me, tilting its head in that unsettling way. "This is a reclamation," it said. "Humanity has been lost. We seek to understand." I frowned. "Understand what?" The figure raised an arm. The wall in front of me shifted, revealing a massive projection of Earth, or at least what used to be Earth. The planet was unrecognizable. Massive latticework structures encased parts of the surface, glowing with an unnatural light. The continents were scarred, reshaped by forces I couldn't even begin to understand. Swarms of things moved across the surface, machines, ships, something else entirely. I took a step back. What the hell am I looking at? The witness spoke. The world you knew is gone. The cycle continued in your absence. Your kind's fate was sealed long ago. I clenched my fists. Bullshit. If humanity's gone, then who built all that? The figure was silent. Then, they did. The projection changed. It zoomed in on one of the colossal structures, revealing figures walking among them. Humanoid, but wrong. They moved with mechanical precision, their bodies augmented with sleek, biomechanical enhancements. Their faces were unreadable, half machine, half something else. I felt a chill crawl on my spine. No, these are the heirs, the witness said. The result of your kind's final choice. I stared at the projection, my mind racing. Somewhere, somehow, humanity had survived. But not as I remembered it. Not as humans. I turned to the witness, my voice low. And where do you fit into all this? It paused. Then, with something almost like reverence, it said, "We are the ones who watched. And now we have found you." The weight of its words settled on me. I was the last unaltered human, a relic of a past long buried. And I had no idea what that meant for me. But I was damn sure about one thing. I wasn't going down without a fight.